All right. I'm here. I'm not that late, only 4 minutes late. You know, when I was doing classical guitar back in the day, I was told you always start the concert about 5 minutes late so that you allow latecomers a seat. It's so interesting. I'm not the late person. I'm allowing for late, something like that. Yeah, you know what I mean. Hey guys, great to see you all there. Look at all the comments out. You guys are awesome. Salty Army. I just saw a notice. Salty Army reporting for duty. You guys are amazing. We are live. Come on in, one and all. Great to have you here for our first live stream Friday of the brand new year, 2023. It is so cool to see you guys again. Awesome to see you. Tom Greer, good morning to you, sir. Great to see you. Dennis Frazier, great to see you. Joaquin Savannah, hello to you, sir. Sonia Stone, Crash Bandit, I love you guys. You're the best. Uncle Sam's Uppercut, ooh, I love it. Pit Dog, good morning to you, sir. Ellen Hunt, they're all coming in. I missed you too, Ellen. Great to see you guys. Yeah, we didn't have a live stream last Friday because it was, of course, Theophany. So I was at church at 10 a.m. So I just put up a quick video in the morning there, but I couldn't wait to get back. And so anyway, for those of you, if this is your first time here, I am Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. We're going to have a great relationship together over the next year. We have got so much to talk about. Super chats are up, so send me your questions. Our moderator, Josh, is here to compile them, and I will answer them in due course. Oh my, have the tables turned since our last live stream at the end of last year. What a difference a new year makes. Oh, man, a number of pundits are coming out, gang, and they are saying that this is it. This is the beginning of the end of Joe Biden. And full disclosure, obviously, we're not fortune tellers here, right? What's that? What is that? What do you even call it? I just saw this headline on News Report or something akin to it. No, what is it? I can't even remember. I'm already going blank, and it's, what is it? 11 o'clock morning my time. But there is a bulletin out there. That's what I'm looking for. Is a bulletin that says, psychic convention canceled due to unforeseen events. Something like. So no, we are not psychics here. No, we cannot read the future. But those who know the way Washington, D.C. works, those who know the way the swamp creatures have ordered their social life, are recognizing that this is the beginning of the end of Joe Biden, that this is that this has all the signs of either an active resignation or a passive resignation, in that he simply says he's not running for re-election. Either way, they're getting rid of him. And it appears to be intentional. We are witnessing an inside job here. Democrat operatives are in the process of bumbling Biden out. Biden has bumbled for the last time, as it were, and we have the Democrats, ironically, to thank for it. And these aren't crazy conspiracy theorists saying this, gang. Tucker Carlson devoted a major segment of his program last night precisely to this, the very first part of his program, to this thesis. Dan Bongino is arguing this. They're all arguing that there is a bona fide hit job happening in real time, being carried out by the Marxist mafia. And so we're going to explore that today in our live stream. We're going to explore this notion that this is the beginning of the end of old Sleepy Joe, what it all means, right? And in the end, we are witnessing this man being put out to pasture where he belongs. He's going to be put in a corner somewhere in Delaware in a rocking chair with a blanket and a bowl of soup, okay, and muttering to himself with no one to listen to him. At least that won't change, right? It's akin to what's happening today anyway. So again, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Super chats are up. and I will answer your questions throughout the broadcast. And before we dive in, gang, let's just pay for the electricity here. Click on that link below. Treat yourself or a loved one to a warm, soft, comfortable MyPillow product. I've got tons of them, by the way. From the one and only Mike Lindell, a dear patriot. It is the new year, gang, and what better way to celebrate than taking advantage of Mike's insanely low prices if you use my special promo code Turley. You got to use Turley. If you use Turley, you're going to get nearly 70% discount on all of Mike's near 200 MyPillow products. And so I like pointing out his classic MyPillow, again, which I sleep on every night. It is normally $69.98, but if you use promo code Turley, you're going to get that $69.98 pillow for only $19.98, and that applies to over 200 products in their catalog. So don't wait. Click on that link below. Give the gift of comfort and warmth to yourself this new year, or give it to some loved ones. Give it to both. Support one of America's most amazing patriots and get the best savings ever if you use code Turley. All right, click on that link below right now. All right, gang, let's have some fun. Let's dive right in here. Obviously, again, we can't tell the future. Nobody knows what's exactly in store here, but there is a growing sentiment among Washingtonians, pundits of the Washington class, that we are seeing nothing less than the end of bumbling Biden. Like I said, Tucker Carlson's pushing this. Dan Bongino's pushing. Tucker is, in fact, thank you, Uncle Sam's uppercut. Very kind of you, my friend. Tucker is likening the fall of Biden to what happened to Andrew Cuomo, right, in New York, governor of New York, who was the one-time darling. He was literally the star of the Democratic Party. Presidential aspirations were a given, all that sort of stuff. Who literally overnight crashed and burned. And Tucker was pointing out that he crashed and burned not because of his corruption or his shenanigans. Everybody knew about that, right? These are Democrats, after all. No, it was because Cuomo, in the end, was an old school Democrat, not one of these new cultural Marxist Democrats representing the liberation and emancipation of some fabricated, marginalized community. And so he was taken out in favor of somebody who was more akin to the New Democrat just by a little bit, and that's, of course, Kathy Hochul, who ironically came within just a couple of points of being unseated by Lee Zeldin, who's a rock star, I think a growing rock star in the Republican Party. But Tucker was pointing out the obvious here. If there's any question as to whether the Democrats want Biden gone, all you have to do is realize, number one, that it's his own people who are the ones who are finding felonies. Again, these are not mishandled. Write this down. This is very important. These are not mishandled classified documents. These are not mishandled documents. These documents were not misplaced. They were not lost in the shuffle. This is not an administrative snafu. Remember that? These are felonies. Plain and simple. Every single stash of classified documents found anywhere outside of authorized locations is a new cluster of felonies committed personally by Joe Biden, who, unlike President Trump, had no executive authority to declassify. This is not rocket science. No matter how much CNN and MSNBC are doing to gaslight and spin this with their Democrat drivel, it all comes down to the very clear, very concise, undeniable fact that Trump had the executive authority to declassify anything he wanted, and Biden didn't. Period. So first, it's Biden's own people finding and turning over these felonies that are growing by the day. And two, it's his own people who are constantly putting bumbling Biden out there to talk. They're actually putting him in front of the press to publicly open his mouth in response to all of this, which is the exact opposite of what they did back in 2020 when they kept him hidden in his basement, in a variation of what we can now call the Katie Hobbs strategy. You don't need to campaign when you have other devices to guarantee your win. So Biden's own people are finding more and more felonies and turning them over, ironically, to the single most corrupt attorney general in the history of our nation, Merrick Garland, who has just appointed, ironically, a Republican special counsel. And then, on top of that, they're throwing Biden out there in public in front of the lights deliberately so they can look like a deer in the headlights and verbally drivel his way into an early retirement. That appears to be a very, very real strategy that's going on here. Now, let's talk about a little bit about this special counsel, this guy, Robert Hur. I know there's a lot of concern about him, rightly so, by the way. He seems to be a tale of two cities. He's a Trump appointee, U.S. attorney in Maryland, the head of law enforcement in Maryland, and he's very clearly a member of the swamp. I mean, there's no question about that. He was the FBI director, Christopher Wray's right-hand man. Wray, of course, is more responsible than anyone else for transforming the FBI from a law enforcement agency into a banana republic-inspired secret police. But more than that, Hur was the point man to bumbling Bob Mueller's special counsel investigation surrounding the Russian collusion hoax. So this is a guy who is up to his armpits in the deep state. Okay. So this guy, Hur, is up to his armpits in the swamp. But that said, there are actually a couple of things to consider here. First, he does have a record of taking down Democrats. As the chief federal law enforcement officer in Maryland, again, keep this in mind, appointed by Trump, Hur brought and resolved charges against a whole host of Democrats. Key officials such as Baltimore City Democratic Mayor Catherine Pugh, P-U-G-H, Poe. I don't follow Baltimore City politics, obviously. Former Baltimore City Police Commissioner Darrell D'Souza. He prosecuted former Maryland Democrat State Representative Cheryl Glenn, former Maryland Democrat State Representative Tawana Gaines. I mean, that's just the half of the list. So we got some mixed messages here. He's up to his armpits in the swamp, and yet we're seeing that he's a Trump appointee who has successfully brought up charges and resolved those charges with some key Democrats throughout Maryland. So for me, I think the easiest way to resolve these mixed messages is, again, to see everything in relation to the swamp. If the swamp wants you protected, you're protected. Like 2020 basement Biden. If the swamp wants you whacked, you're whacked, like Andrew Cuomo. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican in many respects, because it's a cartel, it's a uniparty, and it's a deep state that operates irrespective of party. It's just the Democrat. If you look at the history of the deep state, as I understand, it goes back to FDR. So it's always been partial to the Democrats, right? But I mean, Rhino Republicans, Mitch McConnell's every bit a part of the deep state as anybody else, and every bit as a beneficiary of the deep state as anyone else. So it doesn't matter necessarily if you're Republican or Democrat. The swamp likes you, you're good. If the swamp wants you gone, you're out. And Hur is one of the guys who's appointed to take you out. Hur is one of the hitmen. So this is the way D.C. works. It's lethal legalism. This is the part of the weaponized legalism, right? Special counsels are appointed to take people out in D.C. Or perhaps better, the special counsel. The special counsel is the substitute for cyanide, right? The special counsel is like I think it's better that the special counsel is more like the angel of death in D.C. It can basically, it's a specter that can go anywhere it wants and haunt anyone it wants. Just as Bill Clinton, remember the Whitewater investigation, ultimately turned out to be an indictment and an impeachment based on the charges that Clinton lied about an affair he was having with a 20-something intern, Monica Lewinsky. It had nothing to do with Whitewater. There were no charges brought on Whitewater, but that's how the special counsel started, right? it started with Whitewater. The last thing you want haunting your presidency is the specter of a special counsel. Now, of course, they did this to Trump, and it was clearly the uniparty that did it. It was Jeff Sessions who passively did it by recusing himself from the Russian collusion lie, the hoax. And what he did is he then deferred to the deputy attorney general and swamp rat par excellence, Rod Rosenstein, who we now know actively strategized with other top Justice Department officials on how to remove Trump from office, together with Comey and the FBI. You might remember that Rosenstein actually admitted that he offered to wear a wire to secretly surveil Trump in their meetings to get him to incriminate himself. Well, it was that Rosenstein who appointed Bumbling Bob Mueller to haunt Trump just 5 months into his presidency. So that's how this city works. If you want to get rid of a president or badly wound him, you appoint a special counsel, because they can literally go anywhere they want to investigate anything they want. It doesn't have to be about the matter at hand. They can take the investigation any direction they want. And by the way, I'm opposed to it. I don't know why they have that kind of power. I think that's absurd. I think that's entirely ripe for legalized weaponization. So, and part of why we have the kind of swampy culture that we do in D.C. But despite all of that, there are still the useful idiots out there, the incessant bootlicking libs who are trying to pin this all on Republicans, right? So they get it at one level, right? The Joy Behars and so forth, they get it at one level. They get what Tucker is getting, that there are clearly some shenanigans going on here, right? I mean, Biden's people are reporting felonies every day to a corrupt AG who's turning around and appointing a Republican special counsel to basically take Biden down. They get it. They see, all right, something's not right here. But because they're such useful idiots, because they're so blind in their partisanship that they naturally, in a knee-jerk fashion, just blame it all on Trump, they actually think these are Republicans doing it. So yeah, Joy Behar yesterday on The View pushing, and keep in mind, this is the same Joy Behar who said earlier this week that the difference between the documents found with Biden and the documents found with Trump, the difference, this is the analysis you get on The View. The difference is Biden is honest and Trump isn't. That's the difference. That's why they need to be treated differently. The law. This is a grown up. This is not a kindergartner. This is an actual grown up. This is a physical grown up who is paid millions of dollars a year to opine on political issues on a show watched by a bunch of miserable single women, who actually looked into the camera and said that the fundamental difference between Trump's so-called classified documents that were all declassified, and Biden's classified documents that were all classified, the fundamental difference was that Biden is honest, but Trump isn't. That passes as serious political analysis on The View. But now she's coming out and pushing the conspiracy theory that Republicans planted these documents. Republicans somehow broke into Biden's very, very, very secure garage that houses his Corvette. Because, again, these weren't documents that were just out on the street. They weren't just out on the driveway. They were very, very secure. They were locked in a super Fort Knox-like vault where he keeps his convertible. He keeps his Corvette. So Joy Behar thinks they actually were able to break into Fort Knox in Wilmington and plant these documents, and also plant them at the Joe Biden Center of UPenn in Washington, D.C., which is also a doozy there. We're finding out more and more how corrupt UPenn is. I talked about this on I don't want to go down the rabbit. We could do it in the Q&A, but I mean, I was a prof for 20 years. Colleges are struggling, right? We talked about it in our video yesterday. Universities are struggling. There have been nearly 900 universities closed down permanently since 2004. Okay, 10,000 campuses have been closed down, right? Their individual satellite campuses have been closed down in the same time period. They are so cash-strapped, it's ridiculous. So they're all going to China as the cash cow now. Chinese students are paying top dollar in tuition. So there's they don't need any scholarships. There's no financial aid. They're paying top dollar. And Chinese officials are paying massive sums of money to the universities themselves to create things like the Biden Center, and then turn around and get those professors to lobby people like Merrick Garland, the AG, to get rid of a counter-espionage FBI program that was looking deliberately into the inordinate influence Chinese government has on our colleges. And interestingly enough, he did just that. He got rid of it. So I don't know how you spell bribery, but regardless. So anyway, so Joey Behar thinks that the Republicans are breaking into the Biden Center. They're breaking into the Fort Knox of Wilmington, Joe Biden's garage that has his Corvette there. So we know those documents were absolutely safe, and no one on the planet could ever get in to see it. And also you've got Congressman Hank Johnson. I don't know if you guys caught that. Hank Johnson is back. Do you guys remember Hank Johnson? Hank Johnson is the one who said, if you remember, I think this was back in 2010. Hank Johnson's the one who said that the island of Guam was in danger of tipping over if too many people stood on one side of it. Do you remember that? It was like, it was like 12 years ago. He was speaking before a House Armed Services Committee hearing, and they were talking about relocating Navy personnel to Guam. And this guy, who, keep in mind, the Democrats in Georgia, in his Georgia district, keep reelecting this guy every 2 years. This guy, Hank Johnson, was opposed to that because he thought it could cause the small island to become so overpopulated that it would tip over and capsize. That's literally what he said. He actually believed overpopulation on an island would cause it to tip over and capsize. Were we so lucky with California? But he's back. He's actually claiming that the documents were plants. He and Joy Behar. Again, they get it to a point. They know something is rotten in Denmark. They get it. But they're trying to argue that Republicans are out there doing it. And then, again, for this theory to work, how do you explain that it's the Democrats who are turning all of these documents over? The Democrats aren't just throwing them in the fire when they find them. It's Joe's people who are finding these docs, right? But then they're turning them over to Merrick Garland. They're not getting rid of them, right? So that's where I think this theory about the Republicans doing it just doesn't make any sense. Now, of course, this raises all the ultimate question, which is what? Why are the Democrats doing this? Why are they trying to take Biden out? Well, the obvious answer is they want someone else in the Oval Office. Of course, it's got to be one of their own, right? Just getting rid of Biden they're just going to replace him with another Democrat. But they clearly want someone other than this old white senile male in office. I don't think it's going to be Kamala. If he were to positively resign, if he were to actively resign, like, say, pull a Nixon, sure, it'll be Kamala. But if he were to passively resign and simply say, look, I'm not running again in 2024, then that opens this up to a primary challenge. And that's what I think the Democratic powers want. They certainly that's what Democratic voters seem to want. 2 out of 3 Democrats in the latest polls show they do not want bumbling Biden running again in 2024. So now some are also saying that that sacrificing Biden is there to take out Trump. That's another theory out there. They're getting rid of Biden so that they have an excuse now to prosecute Trump. That may be true. Certainly, the legacy media is doing absolutely everything they possibly can to try to differentiate between these two situations. So Biden is cooperating, whereas Trump was stonewalling, which is not true, by the way. Biden is honest. Trump is dishonest, which, again, is obviously not true. It was all a mistake. For Biden, an administrative snafu. For Trump, it was intentional because he's mean, evil, orange man bad. The forced arguments are literally cringe. You can actually tell when you watch on CNN and MSNBC. You can actually tell when you look at these bought and paid for shills. You can look, if you look at them, you could tell they don't believe it. You can literally tell they're like, they're whatever semblance of a soul they still have is just beginning to just fade away. They know what they're saying is such utter and total BS. They know it. It's utterly cringeworthy. How they all fail. They not only fail in their gaslighting, but they fail to point out the obvious differentiation. They point out every differentiation under the sun between Trump and Biden, but the most obvious legal one. Trump had authority to declassify and Biden didn't, period. For Trump having classified documents in his possession that he declassified as president is fine. Biden having classified documents in his possession that he could not declassify is a felony. There's nothing the pathetic legacy media can do to gaslight that away. But if that theory holds, what they would be doing then is they would be arguing why Trump should be prosecuted, whereas Biden should not. That's right now they're trying to say this is why Biden should not resign. Biden shouldn't be he shouldn't be found guilty or impeached or whatever. But if this is ultimately about getting rid of Biden, then their apologetic of differentiation is going to have to move in the direction of Biden shouldn't be prosecuted, whereas Trump should. Look, if they prosecute Trump, I'm sorry, legally speaking, how could they not prosecute Biden? Now, of course, all of this is moot if we're living inside a weaponized legalist cartel. But then why take out Biden, right? So for me, the theory doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, they could prosecute Trump without Biden, without taking down Biden easily. None of this had to come to the surface. Keep in mind, the Hunter Biden laptop was in the possession of the FBI for a year before we knew about it. None of this had to come to the surface, right? So we have to ask why. And that's in the end why I think Tucker is right. I think in the end, Biden has outstayed his welcome. He's outlasted his usefulness to the Democrats. And since he shows no signs of recognizing that in terms of voluntarily stepping aside for 2024, they're making their move to do that for him. There's nothing you can do in D.C. right now. It's completely shut down with the Republicans having taken over a third of the government. So it's certainly going to be very, very fascinating to watch how this all plays out. All right, over to you guys. Josh is our moderator. He's assembling your questions. And to throw in any questions you want. This is where we get exciting here. As he's assembling these questions, I do want to invite all of you to join my exclusive Insiders Club. Just click on the link below. You're going to get a censorship-free video platform where I discuss topics I can't necessarily share on YouTube. In fact, a couple of weeks back, we had the one and only Mike Lindell to answer your questions for our very first exclusive live stream of the new year. And you can do just that. Click on that link below. Join our Insiders Club. You get your very first 2 weeks absolutely free as a free tryout. But that offer is, I believe, expiring within a week. Plus, I've got several bonus resources I've added on as a thank you for joining the Insiders community. You're going to love it. It's our way to hang out every Monday night. We live. I answer all your questions. We get into some really neat discussions. So don't wait. Click on that link below. Go to insidersclub.turleytalks.com. That's insidersclub.turleytalks.com. Sign up for a free 2 weeks. See how you like it. You can cancel at any time. I think you're going to love it, though. All right, guys, let's see what you got for me here, Josh. Where's my stuff? Where's my list? What do we got here, Josh? What do we got? All right, here they come. Here they come. Mitchell Ryan. Hey, Mitchell. Good to see you. Do you think the Illinois assault weapons ban will stand? No, it will crash and burn as it ought to. Clarence Thomas cannot wait to get this one. I think it's widely recognized. My namesake, Jonathan Turley, has talked about this a lot, but since Heller versus D.C. Back in, 2006, the Supreme Court has signaled very clearly that Second Amendment rights are going to be secured for the next generation. It's just there's nothing Democrats can do about it. They're like Wile E. Coyote. It just keeps blowing up in their face every time they try to catch these insane, ridiculous, gun grabs. Turley said, I mean, there's just no way around it. The reason why assault weapons bans fail, get my two plurals in there, is because, of course, they're based on an artificial, fabricated fantasy. In that there's something called assault weapons, right? We all know there's no such thing as an assault weapon. We all know that so-called assault weapons operate in the same mechanisms of a 9mm handgun, the single most popular self-defense weapon in the country. So no, it's going to go down in flames. So they do. It's all show. It means nothing in the end. So I don't think you have to worry about that at all. It's already being contested in court, so you'll be good. So yes, good night. And I'm understanding the court is even starting to consider cracking down on New York as contempt of court, because New York keeps trying to pass these absurd gun grabs and absurd gun bans after the Supreme Court has knocked them down. And the Supreme Court's saying you should know the implication of what we're saying here. The implication includes this new law you just passed. And if you keep passing these laws, we're going to have to find you in contempt of court. So it'll be really fascinating to see how that develops. So, Strange Marvel, thank you, sir. Uncle Sam's Uppercut, thank you, sir. Devin Knox, could this backfire on Trump, since by getting rid of Biden, the GOP establishment might be obliged to do the same to Trump? So that's, Devin, that's one of the theories. The theory is that they're sacrificing Biden to get rid of Trump. And it could backfire. I mean, in terms of the way it plays out. Just my question is, why sacrifice Biden? They were all wanting to get rid. Notice we haven't heard anything, by the way, from the raids, from the special prosecution to Trump, a special investigation. Look, they didn't have to get rid of Biden. They could have just gone ahead and done this. Why did these felonies surface? Why did they surface? You have to ask. They've been out of sight now for how long? 6 years, 7 years. Why did they surface suddenly now? That's what you have to ask. Why are they surfacing before the 2024 election, right? It seems to me most obvious they're just trying to get rid of Biden. Now, if they can get rid of Biden and Trump at the same time, possibly. But again, it's going to be incredibly hard. Trump had executive authority. Trump has executive privilege to declassify anything he wants. Classification, declassification is not ultimately decided by unelected deep state operatives. We don't live in a Politburo, right? We do not live in an authoritarian regime, at least on paper. The ultimate authority for classification, declassification rests with a democratically elected executive in chief, so the commander in chief. So there's no way around that. All right, Shadow Hunter, with Dems controlling the Senate and 3 letter agencies, what faith can we have that the files would do any good? No, granted, Shadow Hunter, absolutely. No, well, first, Shadow Hunter, why did they surface in the first place? That's where Tucker and Bongino are going. And remember, Bongino is part of Secret Service, so he knows a little bit of how this inner world works. But why did they surface? That's what we're asking here. The very fact that they surfaced is enough to let us know that something is rotten in Denmark, right? But having said that, what you're pointing out is absolutely valid. Whatever happens, however this works out, it will be determined by the deep state. The deep state, this is kabuki theater, and the deep state works this out the way the deep state wants. So you're absolutely right. There's no question about that. We're a post-2016 nation. In 2016, the deep state was revealed. It got exposed for everything it always had developed into, but now it came out, and the way the media kind of justified outing it is they tried to turn them into Paul Revere heroes, that these were, the Rod Rosensteins and the Jim Comeys and the like, the Clappers. These were the ones who were really fighting for democracy and trying to thwart this new neo-fascist movement of Trump. So that's the way they've been doing it. But we all know what's really happening here. Unelected bureaucrats have the final say in literally everything, including, who's running the show here for who we get to elect. So, no, I'm with you. I mean, what you're saying is absolutely spot on in terms of it's the three-letter agencies that are going to determine how this plays itself out. But the very fact that they've allowed it to go this far tells us, something's going on there. So I think you're right on. That's what I mean. We have to see how this plays itself out. That's going to take some time. Tina Casey, if they can get Biden to resign, do you think that Congress will still investigate Hunter and other crimes of the Biden family? Or do you think this is a way they will try to hide their crimes? Great question, Tina. We'll have to see. I think because the Hunter Biden stuff goes so far. I mean, I think especially now that we're finding it implicates institutions like the University of Pennsylvania. Not so much Hunter per se, but Biden's illicit ties with Chinese money, which is what the 10% for the big guy email was all about from that Chinese energy company that's now defunct. It seems that it's the axis around which so many spokes converge. So I think they're going to still continue to do it. And plus, they'll use it as just a hammer to keep banging on the Democrats. So, Nick Q. Sutterfield, wouldn't it be funny if we shipped all of these self-proclaimed Marxist communists to real communist countries and out of America? It would be funny, Nick Q. It would be funny indeed. And they can really taste it for what it's all worth. Tom Greer, hey, Tom, literally everything the deep state is planned right. You think Kamala might have some vaccine issues to get rid of her? Oh, Tom, you're funny. Yeah, I mean, in the end, I think we're all, we're not shocked. But we are, what is the better word for it? We're not shocked, but we're definitely dismayed by how much this is a kabuki theater. I think that's pretty astonishing to us. I think we're astonished at how much of this stuff really is scripted. Remember, it's called virtual politics. Virtual politics is the notion that all the democratic structures are still in place. You still have parties, you still have elections, you still have debate and all that. But in the end, it's basically all scripted. It's all choreographed. There are things you're not allowed to talk about. There are things that the opposition party and what it can talk about is predetermined. The party in power, what it can talk about is predetermined. And it's all in accordance with this national security apparatus that is then highlighted and amplified by basically a media industrial complex. But it all works together in the end to protect a professional class that rose up over the last really 40 years or so, depending on how you schematize it, known as the permanent political class. The permanent political class is an incredibly powerful class. They're almost to the person millionaires. It is a business model. And if you get in, you can get in through all different angles. It is a cartel, so there's going to be all these different doors you can get in. You can get in through the three-letter agencies and be a part of the deep state. You can get in by running for office and becoming part of one of the major corporate parties, the Democrats or the Republicans. You can get in as a university professor. You'll have to satisfy yourself with a 6-figure salary. You're kind of lower on the totem pole, but you're the one who educates the next generation of the credential class, indoctrinates the next generation of the credential class to remind them of what they're doing. And again, most of them are kids from other members of the credential class. All 5 of Al Gore's kids got into Harvard. All 5 of Al Gore's kids got into Harvard. How many families do you know who could do that? Wow. They must be really, 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 really smart. George W. Bush got into Yale. He must be really, Chris Cuomo got into Yale. He must be really smart, right? So the professors are there to groom them, as it were, to become good, obedient members of this permanent political class, and the kickback they get is you live as a millionaire. You have the ideal life imaginable. This is Disneyland, and other people are paying for it. Because remember, especially if you're working for the for the government side of things, the bureaucratic side of things, you don't pay taxes. Remember, you don't pay a dime in taxes. You're a total parasite. Everything is paid for you in the end. Everything, right? And there's an easy way to prove that. There's an easy way to show that, right? If you were to eliminate taxes completely, eliminate the IRS, no more taxes, what would happen to your income right now? What would happen to it? Would it go up or would it go down? Of course, it would go up dramatically, right? Depending what tax bracket you're on, 20, 30, 40%. Go up dramatically, okay? How about if you were an FBI agent? What would happen to your salary? Would it go down? It would disappear. Your bank account would go to zero. You'd have no money because you're paid in tax dollars. You don't pay tax dollars. You're paid in tax dollars, right? So Nancy Pelosi, all these guys, they are parasites. They live off of hardworking, tax-paying citizens. By the way, the vast majority, of course, are middle class. They work on the backs. They live on the backs of hardworking, tax-paying citizens, and then they use all the privileges of the permanent political class to do all kinds of insider trading so as to make themselves into mega millionaires. That's the world we live in. So it's an incredibly attractive class that people want to be a part of. And once and by the way, you can also do it via the media as well. And again, you get sweetheart deals. Chris Wallace is paid $6 million by CNN. Chris Wallace got paid $6 million to basically do nothing, right? Because he was going to take over CNN Plus, and so he got $6 million. That's a pretty sweet deal. If it weren't for the grace of God, okay, I'd toe the line to the deep state and the establishment permanent political class for $6 million a year. I'd look into a camera and lie, no problem, but by the grace of God. So we stand against it. So it's a very scary thing, and it's very real. All right, sorry guys, got a couple of. Let's see. Patty Mack. Hi, Dr. Turley. Can you do a video on how we can promote the SoCal ballot harvesting strategy in all the counties in every state that we can? Thanks, Patty. I already did that. Patty, are you new? If you're new, God bless you. Right to have you. But I did, Patty. So Patty's talking about the SoCal, Southern California ballot harvesting strategy. And I did do a video on it. It was shortly after the midterm, so it'll be mid-November, I believe, and I think it was titled something like, "This is the ballot harvesting strategy we need to win," something like that. And so it's an entire video on the SoCal ballot harvesting strategy. But it is it. We got to do it. We've got to stop whining and complaining and moaning and groaning about ballot harvesting and master it. That's what we got to do, and that's what they've been doing in Southern California. And it's a proven strategy. They've won twice with it. Ballot harvesting became the law of the land in California in 2018. Republicans, like always, because again, the role scripted for them that they get conditioned into is they're the losers. They're the permanent minority party. So they're always learning catch up, right? So Democrats crush the Republicans in 2018. primarily because of that in the midterms, primarily because of all the seats they picked up in California, because all the Democrats got won by mail-in voting. To their credit, Southern California Republicans said, you know what? We're going to adapt, and we've got plenty of mail-in ballot centers that we can use to harvest ballots. So they did drop-off boxes in conservative evangelical churches all throughout their districts in 2020, and we came within 5 seats of winning the House in 2020. I think we picked up 17 seats, came up within 5 seats of winning that House, precisely because of those Southern California Republicans. And then in 2022, we got the 222 seats. We picked up the 9. Largely because of these Southern California Republicans who are not holding onto their seats, but flipping seats as well. And it's largely because of drop-off boxes at evangelical churches. I think gun stores, they were doing it at gun stores as well. And that gave us a huge advantage. One person had pointed out that in one church alone, they collected over 12,000 ballots, all secure, all delivered to the voting counting boxes or counting centers by the elders or administrators of the church. So absolutely, it's a game changer. And we've got to do that big time. That together with Steve Bannon's precinct strategy, where we're the ones counting them. We got to make sure we're doing that as well. All right. Theophrastus. What really happened? Somebody on Biden's team finally said, I've had enough. I'm going to prison for that senile crook. We need to report this. They ain't going to prison. No, I ain't going. That's not how the deep state works. Come on, Theophrastus. You know that's not how the deep state works. No, that no one had a conscience. No, there's no soul among the swamp rats in the swamp. No, they wanted the most obvious thesis here is they want to take him out. Now the question is why, and so on. That's what we have to find out. And Tracy. Tracy. There you go. Oh, so Tracy. I'm so glad I found your channel. Well, thank you, Tracy. I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad I found you. God bless you. Very, very much appreciated. All right, gang, that's going to do it for us. Have a wonderful weekend. Again, I'll be checking in over the weekend with you guys from my back porch, usually. If anything comes up here, it's going to be fascinating to watch how this all plays out. Butter the popcorn. And yes, who knows what's going to happen. The Democrats think if this is a Democrat plant, they think this is going to benefit them. We'll see. Whatever it is, the swamp is going crazy right now, and we're just going to sit back and watch. God bless, gang. Love you. Take care.